I'm in the middle of a project where I'm trying to make a lot of like little flowers, and I've just discovered how to torch fire enamels. So I want to show you how I set this up. These are some flowers that I've already made, and this is a very light gauge copper, probably a 22 gauge, and I use the disc cutter to cut the circle out and a little punch to punch the hole. So I'm going to take these dividers now and make a little mark so that I can cut the petals out, around a center. And I have a notching tool here, which is something that is used in sheet metal work. And this makes a very nice, little notch. So I'm going to cut for 6 petals, first going one place and then exactly opposite that, bringing my point right up to the lines. And then I'm going to divide that into an approximate 1/3 and 2/3. You could actually mark this out if you wanted to make it actually perfect, but I want the flowers to be a little bit more natural in form, so I'm cutting these irregularly. Now I'll just do one opposite that cut, opposite this one, looking toward the center, and then I'll try to divide this piece in exactly half here. Then I'll take the notchers, and to put the little fringe on the edge, I'll cut out little pieces like this, first on the outside edge and then one in the center. And this will give it a little fringed edge like a blue cornflower, because that's what I'm trying to make an idea of. Almost there. There's enough room for 2 in this one. There. Now I'll take a little dapping block, and I'm using the largest hole, and I just want to give this a slight round shape. So that's in there. And now I have the little flower. So we're going to take this over to the other end of my bench, and we'll put some enamel on it. Okay, the setup here is I have a third hand with some cross-locking tweezers, and there's a piece of mesh in here to support the enamel piece. There's a very fine tea strainer, and I put in some blue enamel here. I have a little quench on the side here. And then I have a jar with some clear fire in it. Clear fire is a liquid that I'll use to paint the copper with. And this will allow the enamel to stick. So I'm going to make sure I get this only where I want the enamel to be, which is the whole face of this one side. And then I'll put this on the mesh like that. I've also put a sheet of Mylar underneath this, so that when I sprinkle the enamel on like this, see how it coats? And I want to get a fair amount of enamel on here. And this way, the enamel that falls through underneath will be able to be picked up and used again. So now I'll take my torch, and this is just a simple butane torch. And I'll heat it from underneath. And you'll see that the clear fire dries out, and then the enamel starts to get dark. The mesh is getting red. and the enamel is starting to melt. I'm going to pull the flame back a little bit to slow it down a little bit here. And now that I see that the enamel has sort of melted, I want to bring the fire to the top to sort of even out the surface and let it smooth down, because it has a little sort of like lava-like texture. So I'm bringing the fire in and out until I get the enamel where I want it to go. And that looks, fairly smooth now. So turn off the fire. Let it cool down for a second. And then I'll pick it up and quench it. And here we have our blue flower. Now, see, I see that some of the enamel isn't exactly where I want it, and it's not as heavy as I would like in like this area. So what I'm going to do is put it back on the mesh after I give it a coat of the clear fire. And I'm going to add just a little more enamel to make sure I get enamel on all of those areas that were not so evenly covered. And I'll put a little more enamel in here. And you could do this with another color if you wanted, or just do certain areas, by adding another color to the enamel. I'm just making plain blue ones at the moment. I'm going to try to even the heat out a little bit here. Bring this down. There, it's starting to get glassy on top. And now I'll just bring this around here to melt. And give it a nice glazed finish. And here we are. Here's a little wider view of the setup. I have the clear fire here with a brush in it. This is the enamel, and it's in a dish, like a white porcelain dish, so that when I go to pour the excess enamel into it, I'm not, contaminating the main supply or the fresh supply of enamel. Then there's the mesh in the cross-lock tweezers. I have my torch, a striker, and this is all here with a nice light so that I can see what I'm doing.